So our passage this week is Psalm chapter 32. So everyone needs to get out their Bibles, and the page number is 462 in your pew Bibles, but it's Psalm 32. If everyone could stand as I read this scripture here. Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man against whom the Lord counts no iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me, my strength was dried up as by the heat of summer. I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. Therefore, let everyone who is godly offer prayer to you at a time when you may be found. Surely in the rush of great waters they shall not reach him. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Be not like a horse or mule without understanding, which must be curbed with bit and bridle, or it will not stay near you. Many are the sorrows of the wicked, but the steadfast love surrounds the one who trusts in the Lord. Be glad in the Lord and rejoice, O righteous, and shout for joy, all you upright in heart. You may be seated.
It's kind of an odd passage for Thanksgiving, right? This is a Thanksgiving hymn, or it's a hymn about, or a song about forgiveness, and that is something obviously we want to be thankful for. And David's experience as he writes this and wants us to think about it, reflect on it, we want to be thankful for that. It's something huge. It's a broken relationship with God. Everyone has sinned, and that relationship can be restored only through forgiveness. And so we want to look at his experience. We want to think through the material. It's called a Maskil of David, and there's some debate about exactly what that term means, but it means something, at least a reflection on, or something to think through, a meditation on. And so we want to think through this idea of forgiveness. Let's go ahead and start in prayer as we go forward. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity to pursue your word here this morning. We pray that our minds would be open, that our hearts would be open to the challenge, Lord, that you have for us through your word. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Wanted to start off. This is Psalm 32. Psalm 51 is another psalm of David, and they don't know exactly how in terms of timing, the two are arranged. I'm going to put this down. But the Psalm 51 is another psalm about forgiveness, and that one is specifically slated in the time period of David and Bathsheba. Whether or not this psalm was written before or after the confrontation from Nathan, we don't know. But in terms of its content and how they would agree with one another, they're pretty close in terms of how David is processing this. And we want to look at, or at least put this Psalm 32 in the framework of what David did, or that incident with Bathsheba. We know about this incident with Bathsheba. There was an adultery that he had with Bathsheba. Then he tried to cover it up. He tried to get Uzziah to sleep with his wife, and that didn't happen. So then he took him to the front lines. He murdered Uriah. Then David was involved in the cover-up. David lied to the prophet Nathan. He lied to God. David lied to his people. And what I want to say here is that he kind of made a comprehensive mess of things. Some of the statements is that, in this incident, in this area, David broke each of the 10 commandments. It was messed up. So this is Psalm 32, though. This is how is it? Okay, that experience, and we know this, and David is open. He allowed, this was recorded. We know this. God wanted us to know this about his life. So how might David have processed through that? Now, there's another guy. Now, this is feels like a long time ago now, but another guy that was involved in some impropriety. And this is Psalm 32. We must seek God's forgiveness. And it's this guy. how many of you were alive when this guy was president? How many of you guys were not alive? How many of you do not know who this guy is? What? You don't know who this guy is. This guy's name is Bill Clinton. He was president of the United States from 1992 to 2000, and while in office, he was engaged in some activity in the Oval Office that was it was impropriety, a measure of impropriety to it. It was wrong. There was adultery. There was cover-up. And for a long time, he denied it. Long time, denied. He was, Bill Clinton, almost after the impeachment happened and all of this stuff, there was a leadership conference at Willow Creek. I was a special events coordinator at a crisis pregnancy center in Chicago. And so they had us all as staff attend this leadership conference, and Bill Clinton, this is him at that conference, came and met with Bill Hybels, the pastor, at Willow Creek. And the thing is, this is pretty big. This is the first type of religious place that he went to. It was a leadership conference. That's why they invited. They didn't invite Bill Clinton to be a pastor or to give pastoral guidance, but as a leader, and he was the president of the United States, they invited him in. Bill Hybels and him knew each other. He was invited in to talk about leadership, but he couldn't talk about leadership before they had discussed this time with Monica Lewinsky and this scandal. And so some of the first questions were about this scandal. And Bill Hybels asked him, what was it? You can actually find this on YouTube, this interview at Willow Creek with Bill Clinton. I went and looked it up so I can get the exact wording. Bill Hybels asked this: what was it like after you confessed to the nation what had happened? What was it like after you confessed to the nation what had happened? And this is Bill Clinton. I mean, he took his microphone, and this is the expression. This is what I saw at Willow Creek. And I'll never forget what he said. And we're going to get to what he said in just a little bit. What we want to do is, though, process through some of this psalm. And then I want to talk through what did he say? Did it match? How was it appropriate? How might it not have been appropriate? Let's go into the passage here. Verses there, 5.1. The path of forgiveness. Let's read verses 1 through 2. Read this with me as I read it aloud. Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man against whom the Lord counts no iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. So we want to look at this first couple of verses and talk about this, the path of forgiveness. This is what he's trying to sell us. And he's had this personal experience, David has, and he wants you to know that this is a type of life or a form of life that you can have. And what would be the obstacle to having this? The first word here he uses is the word blessed. Blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven. And this idea of being blessed is an important one. It's that of a good life, of life as it should be. And this is his thesis statement. He says, if you want this kind of life, you're not going to get it by being perfect. It doesn't say blessed is the one who is perfect, because that would put a blessed life beyond all of it. He says, blessed is the one whose transgression is forgiven. And then he goes into 3 different types of things. But this is his thesis statement. He wants you to have this. Do you want to have this? That's the first question you have to ask yourself this morning. If there's a sin in your life, if there's an issue that you don't want to resolve, if you haven't wanted to resolve, the first question you want to ask yourself is, do I want to have this life that David is describing? A blessed life. Life as it should be. Life in all of its goodness as God intends for us. And he uses 3 different words here. Transgression, he uses sin, and iniquity. Transgression is an act of rebellion, so that's a kind of more of a direct act. Sin is missing the mark, and iniquity is the idea of a conscious and intentional wrong. You wanted to do it, and you meant to do it, and you did it wrong. You sinned. He uses 3 different words here to talk through. You could look at each word and kind of get the realm of meaning, and then, okay, now we're going to put this all together. What is he trying to do? He's throwing out all the different terms, or a bunch of different terms that are in this realm to say, okay, look, all of us have done this. All of us have transgressed, sinned, and we've all missed the mark. We've all engaged in things that we know were wrong on purpose. So what are you going to do about it? All of them together. This whole stuff, the whole mess that you get yourself into, and I can guarantee you everyone in this room has gotten yourself into that mess. All of you, myself included. And he uses 3 different terms here for forgiveness. This idea of being forgiven, of having things not covered or being covered, and the idea of not counting against iniquity, not being counted against. 3 different words for sin or transgression, iniquity, 3 different terms. He says, okay, if you want this stuff over here, this mess and the garbage in your life that you have done, that you have gotten yourself into, if you want that changed, forgiven, covered, there's only going to be one way you're going to be able to do this. And he's saying, look, all of this stuff. You think, well, I've done a lot of big things wrong, or little things wrong. I've only done a few big things. He's talking about all of the stuff that you've done wrong. There's this idea of having comprehensive forgiveness. And he says, I have been. David has done little things wrong. David has done big things wrong. You think, if it would be put out, if it could be proved that one of the presidents of the United States intentionally committed murder of a rival guy because he wanted to take his wife. If you could prove that, what would happen to the president of the United States? Theoretically, he would be impeached, and then he would be imprisoned for the rest of his life. David, what about him? He's king. There is no check and balance on king. And he says, the garbage, all of that stuff that I was involved in, it can all be forgiven. And there's this, he says, blessed is the man against whom the Lord counts no iniquity, and in whose spirit there's no deceit. This idea of, okay, it doesn't quite fit with the rest of the stuff, in whose spirit there's no deceit. And so there's a couple theories that this is a category of sin. Like, okay, sin, and there's sin, iniquity, transgression, and then deceit. Okay, and then that's like a 3rd category or 4th category. I don't buy into that. The other theory about this, generally speaking, is that this is a statement of warning, because you're going to come to this text and you're going to be like, okay, transgression, sin, iniquity, yeah. And then what do we do when we know we've done something wrong? We deceive ourselves. What's that called? Rationalization, right? Justification. Well, I did that wrong thing because of this. I don't know about you. I'm really good at this. I'm really great. Especially as a pastor, holier, No, it's just, you guys, we all are experts. And he says, look, what do you need to do? Okay, you need to take an honest look at where you're at, and you need to change. Something has got to change. He's saying here, we can experience comprehensive forgiveness. He wants you to have this comprehensive forgiveness, and he wants you to have this life of blessing. That's the only way you can have it, this idea of blessing. I used to describe blessing as eating a Krispy Kreme donut fresh off the rack. How many people have done this? Krispy Kreme donut, fresh off, warm. They just give it to you, and you eat it. Is that a blessed experience? Yes or no? Yay or nay? What? Yum. It's great. And that's how I used to describe it, because it is something. Why is it so overwhelmingly good? Why? What's happening when you're eating that donut? Fresh off the rack. Warm. I don't know. The state of the dough and the sugar that's on the dough, I think, is in the perfect form to directly go into the bloodstream. You experience something that just washes over you. It's an experience that just boom in your face. The problem with this illustration is what? Can you live in a state of eating Krispy Kreme donuts nonstop? No, the problem with this illustration is that this is actually not part of a blessed life, especially as unhealthy as it is. I mean, you're doing something, you're trading health later on for experience today, right? I'll be honest, we all make those trades. That's not blessed life. Eating Krispy Kreme donuts 24/7, kids, you might think it'd be great, but you're going to get sick. The idea of blessed life is this idea that it's like you get to have and experience what is good in life in a steady state. It's this idea of being fruitful, of enjoying the life that God has. You cannot enjoy the life that God would have for you living in sin. You cannot enjoy the life God would have for you if there's this garbage in your life that is undealt with. And he's saying you can have comprehensive forgiveness. All of that stuff, the whole bag of stuff. Iniquity, sin, transgression, the whole bag, the kit and caboodle, can be erased and gone. And then he wants to describe what that experience was like. Go ahead and go to verses 3 through 5. Let's read that. For when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was dried up as by the heat of summer. He says, I acknowledged my sin to you, and I did not cover my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. So he turns from this general thesis statement, this is a blessed man, and what does he do? He says, this is all, I've done this. This is part of my life. I have had this bag of iniquity and sin and transgression, and when I had that, I kept silent. I groaned. My bones wasted away. My strength was dried up. This is my experience, and this is going to be the experience of humanity. When you have this sin in your life, this is the experience. This is inspired by God. It's not, well, this is how, he had some iniquity and, he had a kind of a weak constitution about him. So it's, this is more just for David, not for the rest of us. He's saying this is where you're at. And he uses a couple of illustrations. He says, like bones wasting away. And, this is, as I thought through this, I thought, a tooth is a bone, kind of. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't be classified as a bone. But I do know of a guy who had a bone and one of his teeth infected. Have you ever gone through this? It's painful. It's not a pleasant experience. And, the thing is, my friend at the time, he was in college, and he didn't really want to deal with it. And, he had all these college loans and all this stuff, and he hadn't gone to the dentist, and he survived, and he was living off of Mountain Dew and Hershey Kisses. That it didn't do well for his teeth. And he didn't go to the dentist because he didn't want to pay for it. Then one of his teeth got infected, and it rotted apparently and died. But when his tooth first, I talk to him on a pretty regular basis. He says, "No, the pain will go away. I just have to I have to live with it for a while. Eventually, it's everything heals." He literally said this. It'll go away. Again, it got infected. It died. Pain in your teeth doesn't just go away. There was a boil that formed, or what do you call it? Abscess that formed. And man, it was painful. And tongue in cheek, I was like, look, buddy, you got to go to the dentist. Just go. Go to the dentist. I started thinking through, how can we pay for this? He says, no, it will hurt too much. Now, he literally did say this, but it was tongue in cheek. Horrible. Tongue in cheek. He didn't really believe it. He's it'll hurt too much to go to the dentist. I'm not going to go. And he kept delaying and delaying. And then he started taking Advil, 4 Advil every 4 hours. And that apparently that can blow your liver pretty bad. pain was excessive and severe, and he finally went to the dentist. Dentist said it's going to cost $10,000 at this point because of all the thing is, if you have this thing in your tooth, it's right next to where your brain lives. They're actually pretty connected. That can kill you. That can kill you. Then he said, it's going to cost too much. And he literally meant this one. It's going to cost too much. What does David say here? I kept silent. My bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. I've got this garbage in my life. Which of these might apply? Why don't we want to take care of this? It'll go away. I won't think about it. How about the last one? If this comes out, what's going to happen? It's going to cost too much. I don't want to deal with it. I want to just hide it under. Listen, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Second illustration, he says, is a heat of summer. And this is another one. It's pretty vivid. We've all been out in the summertime. We've all had the sun on top of us. One of my experiences is as a detasseling. Has anyone ever detasseled? This is misery. We, as a family, we would contract out our own acres. This is at a time when you could do that, apparently. And they would give us so much money per acre, and you had to have it done within 3 days. And the first day was okay. The second day got worse. And then, by the time you woke up on that third day, your detasseling is pulling out the tassels, and you have to do it with thumb down. You can't pull like this because you have to get down inside there, pull it up. And that sun on the third day, your hands are like, you don't want to. It's a horrible experience. Horrible. Don't do it. Third day, I was out in the sun, and this is what it looked like. You're in the leaves are whipping across your face, and when they get dry, they get sharp, and you're covering your whole face up, and the thing is, you'd get to the end of the row, and then you'd see the van that was out there. What did we have at the van? Water and Gatorade and stuff like that to keep you hydrated. But I remember the van lid, the trunk being open, and I remember the experience from going under the sun to under the van lid, the trunk. And I remember that moment, I was like, the sun wasn't beating down on my head. It changed everything. And the thing is, I was like, I was tired. I didn't realize how tired I was until I went under the van lid. Does that make sense, the trunk? You guys, they're like, okay, you have this garbage in your life. I have this garbage in my life sometimes, and we're like, okay, I don't want to deal with it. It's going to cost too much. I'm going to throw it away. I'm going to just try to ignore it. It'll go away, all this stuff. And the thing is, what David is saying is it's not like this upfront pain that's pummeling you in the face. It's like this experience of just being zapped, of not having the strength that you once had. And the thing is, you might not even know you don't have the strength that you could have had. Does that make sense? Until after this experience of being forgiven, then you have that again. And he's trying to sell this idea, this is something worth doing. The cause, he says, is I kept silent. That was the cause. What is going to be the solution? Speaking. And what does he say? I acknowledged. I did not cover it. And then he says specifically, I said, I will confess. 3 different places, 3 different areas. He uses the same 3 words for sin as in verses 1 and 2. He uses the same 3 kind of concepts of forgiveness. And how is it you're going to get it? It's just by saying something. Your words, your ability to, okay, I am going to, in my soul, agree with God on this and am going to allow it to come out. I'm going to get it from in here, all that garbage that's pent up, that's taking away your strength, that is causing pain in your bone. It can all go away. But what is it you have to do? You have to speak. You have to speak. He's saying, look, if you're going to have, you got to deal with this comprehensive mess we all get ourselves into. And we want to have this comprehensive forgiveness. What is it you have to do? There's got to be a comprehensive confession. It's got to all be rooted out, spoken, and put out there for this to happen. And this is the key. He turns to God. Do you see what he's doing? I acknowledge my sin to you. Who's he talking to? He's not talking to Bathsheba. He's not talking to Nathan. He's talking to God. I acknowledge my sin to you. I did not cover my iniquity. God knows it anyway. I will confess my transgressions to the Lord. He says, and you forgave the iniquity of my sin. And he's talking right to God. He's modeling that for us. You forgave the iniquity. If this part right here doesn't happen. Do you see, in other religions, that part isn't there. If you're a Muslim, it's not there. You just have to do enough good to outweigh your bad. And you got to make sure to work at it. If you're a pantheist, if you believe in this idea of karma, what happens if you do something wrong? It's going to come back to you. It's going to nail you. There is no breaking of the karma cycle. Christianity, what do we have? We have a God who knows what we've done, who loves us anyway, and invites us to be forgiven. You can be forgiven. And we can experience comprehensive forgiveness only through comprehensive confession. That's the only way. And it's not, I'm sorry. The words, I'm sorry, is nice and lovey-dovey. That is not what David did. Nowhere in Psalm 32 does David say, I'm sorry. What does he say? I acknowledged my sin. You know where sorry comes from? It comes from a Germanic term. And it's painful, full of sores. Sorry, full of sores. All you're saying is, I'm sorry, which means, well, I'm feeling pain about this. Well, you should feel pain about it. David already says you're going to feel pain about it. That is not the change that's happening. The change that is happening is you're acknowledging you've done something wrong. Jay Adams, he's a biblical counselor guy. He just passed away actually this last week or a week ago. And he says, look, an apology hasn't been said until someone says, I have sinned. And we tell our kids, say you're sorry. Do you know nowhere in Scripture does it say to say you're sorry? Nowhere. You won't find it. What you will find is a complete turning and saying, okay, I'm confessing something I have done wrong. I have sinned. Would you forgive me? That is what he's talking about here. Comprehensive confession. Let's keep going. Read this with me, verse 6. Let everyone who is godly offer prayer to you at a time when you may be found. Surely in the rush of great waters they shall not reach him. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. I'm going to be with you in this. Verse 9. Be not like a horse or a mule without understanding, which must be curbed with bit and bridle, or it will not stay near to you. Again, two more pictures is what we get here. He says, therefore, because this is the reality, if you want comprehensive forgiveness, you have to comprehensively confess. So how is this supposed to be happening? Or when is it supposed to be happening is the first question. He says, when, and he uses this illustration of great waters and waters being around you. What is he trying to say here? Let everyone who is godly offer prayer when, right now, not when great waters come. So we have, the question is, why would this be? This is great waters here. And, you have great waters that are coming. But when you're standing in great waters, what happens is it's not a small sound. Typically, it's a really loud sound. And then you're trying to think through, what is the stuff that I've done wrong? And oh my goodness, people have found out about it. What am I supposed to do because of it now? What would be the best way to respond to this? And all this stuff that's around you. Wait. Wouldn't this be better? Don't wait. Don't wait till the great waters, till somebody catches you. Don't wait until it comes out of... No, he says, look, you got to do this now. Why wait? Why wait? Why wait? When is now. He says, I'm going to instruct you. I'm going to teach you. I'm walking with you here. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. What does he say? Don't be like the horse or the mule. Don't be like this. What does the horse and the mule need? They need a bit and a bridle. What is a bridle? What is it? Do you know what a bit and a bridle is? Something you stick in the horse's mouth. How does the horse know where you want to go? Is it because every person who rides a horse is a horse whisperer and you kind of lean? Oh, Mr. Horse, why don't you go this way? What does a bit do? It causes what? Pain. Don't be like that. You can think through it. You're not a horse. You're not a mule. God has given you the ability to think through this, and He's saying, look, this is what you have to do. You have to do it willingly, not because you've been punished. God is a loving God, and He's going to discipline those who He loves. That's Hebrews. But He says, don't wait for that. Don't wait for that. This is so cool. These are the promises that He gives. There's 3 promises. He says, you are a hiding place for me. Okay, you can imagine David thinking through, or someone thinking through, okay, this is going to be painful. This is going to be a big experience in my life. I've messed up. I want to comprehensively confess my sin so I can have this comprehensive forgiveness. I'm thinking through oh my goodness, if I do this, it's going to cost me X, Y, and Z. Somebody's going to know about it. There's going to be external shame that's placed on my shoulders here. People might not understand where my heart was on this, and I know I did something wrong, and my motive was wrong. Whatever it is, and you're doing all these calculations in your head. And what is he saying? Don't wait for the great waters. Don't wait to have a painful experience to bring you back in. He says, you can do it right now. And if you do it right now, he says, God is going to be a hiding place for you. God is going to preserve you from trouble. And there's going to be shouts of deliverance. God is not going to go away from you. He's going to be right there with you through this experience. Don't wait. Do it right now. And now here we have 3 promises. We can experience comprehensive forgiveness only through comprehensive confession. And he says, ask now. Do it willingly. And that is the situation where you have Bill Clinton. He's up there. He says, what was it like? And this is what he said, verbatim. This is what he said. I feel much more at peace than I used to. When there's nothing left to hide, he said, it frees you. He says, once you've had to stand up and ask for forgiveness before the whole wide world, great waters, bit the bridle, before the whole wide world, it makes it a little harder to be as hard as I once was on other people. He said it sounded really sincere. I don't know. But it tracks, right? He just got done saying this. Bill Hybels responded like this. He says, a lot of people, when they learned that I was going to interview you, and a lot of people who know that we've been meeting have said to me, the guy never really apologized. The guy never really owned it and came clean about his mistakes. He tried to hide it, tried to said it didn't happen. He never came clean. That's a little surprising to me, he says, because we sent a senior staff member to the White House the day in September 98 when you gave one of the most clear confessional statements that I have ever heard. He says this, but there's a whole bunch of people here who believe you never really said it. Now, he said it, but there's a whole bunch of people who believe what? He never really... What was the problem? When did he say it? It was after the great waters hit. It was after the bit and the bridle hit. It was after impeachment. And he might be sincere. We know, I won't know. You won't know. You can't read his heart, can't see his heart. But how would you know he was, or what would give you the greater understanding that he was sincere? If he'd done what? If he would have come out right away. Or if he would have come out and said, yeah, I've done this. Please forgive me. before the investigations hit. The accusation could have been made. He could have owned up and said, yes, and I was wrong. That would be far more. Does that make sense? You guys are dealing with something. The Holy Spirit here doesn't give examples of stuff that David did wrong. And maybe that's kind of the point. You have the opportunity right now, as you're processing through, this is Bill Hybels, to ask willingly, to ask now, to say, okay, I got to get this right. Lastly, let's finish this off in verses 10 and 11. This is the response that we get. It says this, many are the sorrows of the wicked. He describes this path, the other path. But steadfast love surrounds the one who trusts in the Lord. Be glad in the Lord and rejoice. Thankful, right? We're coming up to Thanksgiving. O righteous, and shout for joy, all you upright in heart. And we get this last statement. He's like, this is, okay, bottom lining it, this is all you get. You have many are the sorrows of the wicked, and there's two different paths here. And what I want you to see is that both paths, okay, this is something he said earlier. Therefore, let everyone who is godly offer prayer. Now, wait. Is he talking to the person who has prayed yet or hasn't prayed yet? He's talking to the person who hasn't prayed yet. But what does he still call him? Therefore, let everyone who is what? Godly offer prayer. He's saying this person who is still dealing with this comprehensive mess, this comprehensive sin, that sin or iniquity or transgression, he says that person can still be godly. What does it take for that person to be godly? Does it take more good works than bad works? Does it take more sacrifice at the tabernacle? He says, no, the person who is godly is the sinner who offers prayer, who says, I am going to come open with this. That is a godly person. What about the wicked person? The wicked person is somebody who is a sinner, but doesn't offer that prayer. They're both sinners. We're all in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. Pastor Tom's in the same boat. Elders are in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. And so we have this other term here, oh, righteous. He's not talking to anybody who's righteous on their own merit. That's what the whole purpose of Psalm 32 is about. Psalm 32 is about how you're unrighteous. And then at the end he says, oh, you righteous. Why? Because you've been forgiven. It's not because you've done or not because you've sacrificed. It's not because of the good that you have tried to offer God. It's because God has forgiven. And he gives three imperatives. Beautiful imperatives. Be glad, rejoice, shout for joy. The new reality. Why is it that we can do this? It's because we have a comprehensive freedom. There's a freedom to it. We're under bondage. We're under this sin. We're under this guilt. We're under this stuff that we have to. That's sapping our strength. That's rotting our bones. And he says, look, no, you can have freedom from all of that. It can all be gone now. Now, are there going to be consequences? Maybe. But whatever those consequences, whatever the cost, it's worth it for this freedom. God will be your protector. God will be your guide. God will give you deliverance. And in the end, this life of righteousness that you can have, it's worth it. We can have comprehensive forgiveness. Through comprehensive confession, we need to ask now. We need to ask willingly because there is no other way. And you think, I'm pretty good right now. I think I've got this. I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to just let this go. I'm going to bury it a little deeper. When it comes back up, it might be coming up right now. I mean, I don't know where you're at, but there might be an issue right now in your life that is coming up to the surface, and you think, oh my goodness, this is something I've been able to kind of wedge down below for a while, and I don't want to deal with it. And I don't want to. Oh my goodness, I'm thinking about it. Oh, what do we get really good at? Let's bury it a little deeper. He says, don't bury it deeper. Confess it. Go through that experience. God will be your protector. and you can have this freedom that you can rejoice about, that you can be praising God about, that you can shout for joy about. And so this is a illustration that's just so powerful. And I watched it was a edited version that I wouldn't recommend the unedited version, but it's the Shawshank Redemption. You got Andy Dufresne. He was falsely accused, and he goes to prison for 23 years, or I think it's 23, but he's in prison, and the whole time that he's in prison, he's trying to escape from that prison. It was like no effort was too much for him. 23 years. He was like, I want to live in freedom, and I'm gonna live in freedom. And it describes this journey that he took as he opened up this hole and he busted open the sewer pipe, and it says he crawled 3 football fields down this sewer pipe. You know what's in sewer pipes? Human waste, fecal matter, and the amount of they described the smell as overwhelming. And he crawled through the filth and the garbage, and then he gets out. And this is the last image that we see of this experience. And what does he do? He takes the soap and he is out there in the rain, and he says, I am free. There was nothing that he wasn't willing to do. He wanted to do it. He wanted to have this comprehensive freedom in his life, and there was nothing that he wouldn't not do to get it. 23 years, the journey through, everything set up in his life, and he has this freedom. And if you look at verse 11, it says, be glad in the Lord and rejoice, O righteous, and shout for joy, all you upright in heart. To me, this is an image of that. You can have it. You can have it today. We want to go through. We must seek God's forgiveness. That's really a nice deal right here. We can experience forgiveness. That's what the verses 1 and 2 are about. We need to ask for forgiveness. We need to do this right now. We need to choose to do this. We can live in a new righteousness. Okay, that's great. It's very teacher-esque. I'm going to ask for your permission. Okay, there's a difference between a teacher and a preacher, right? And a preacher, I don't know. I'm going to change a word. I'm going to upset the apple cart. You. I mean, there's only one word. What's the difference there? This psalm is written to all of us. It's not just written to the bad of us. It's written to all of us. You and me. You can experience forgiveness. You need to ask for forgiveness. You need to do this right now. You need to choose to do this, and you can live in a new righteousness. The only way to deal with this comprehensive mess of sin, garbage that we have in our life, is to have a comprehensive confession that can only come through our comprehensive forgiveness that can only come through comprehensive confession. That's the only way to do it. Do it now. You can have a comprehensive righteousness, a comprehensive freedom. And what we want to do is we want to close. There's a song that came out. It's another older song, but it just hits the theme of this. So now again, so this is Psalm 32. This is supposed to be a psalm as well. And what is it about a song that hits us differently? I want you guys to think through as a song is being played and just take a moment. I mean, we don't take a lot of moments to think and reflect. This is just taking a moment to think and to reflect. It's worth it. It's worth the time. And then we'll have Tom close the service in prayer.